Hi, you are very welcome to this week's episode of Cut Through the Noise with me, Aisling O'Rourke. Cut Through the Noise is the podcast that helps business leaders increase sales through elevated communications and marketing. Here, we don't just talk theory, we deliver actionable advice on how you can improve your connection with your target audience in order to elevate your brand and, at the end of the day, help your business grow. Well, you are very welcome to today's episode of Cut Through the Noise. And in this series, Series 7 of the podcast, we're really focusing in on communications and the importance of understanding communications, but communicating what it is that you do in order to help you and your brand grow. At the end of the day, your brand will never outgrow you. So sometimes this does involve checking yourself and assessing whether or not you're really doing what you could be doing. Are you really putting in as much effort as you could be into sharing your work and how people can support you and your business? This is a topic that I love talking about. And today I have the pleasure of being joined by Samantha Kelly. Samantha Kelly is the founder of Social Media Fest. It happens again in Dublin on April 9th. But of course, she's also known for her Twitter handle, Tweeting Goddess. And today we speak about sharing your opinions online and making sure that they are aligned to you and your brand values in order to have really beneficial results for you and your brand. I hope you enjoy our chat. Samantha Kelly, Tweeting Goddess, the founder of Social Media Fest. You are very welcome to Cut Through the Noise. Good morning to you.
Good morning, and thanks for the opportunity.
Samantha, you have been involved in the online space since the foundation of Twitter, really. Like you really got in there early. But for the benefit of listeners, can you explain what is it that you do?
Well, I help people raise their profile online because, as we know, there's a lot of noise out there and it's hard to stand out. So I help people, particularly in B2B space, um, stand out from the noise and show their thought leadership, and so that they show that they're the go-to person in their niche, because there are a lot of experts out there, and some experts, they might not be the best, but because their profile is so high, they're getting all the work. So it's to give a chance, a piece of the pie, to the people who actually are experts and probably just might be a little bit nervous about posting and stuff like that. So I help them get more confident and get them opportunities.
Well, I am delighted to have you here, particularly for season 7 of Cut Through the Noise, because in this season, I want to talk about the importance of showing up online to promote yourself, to share with your target audience what it is you do and why they should buy into you. Because if you don't show that evidence, well, then how can they know that they can trust you? Like, it's the whole raison d'etre behind season 7 of this particular podcast and Cut Through the Noise overall. But I know, like let's be honest about it. We live in a divisive world, and we live in a world where there's a lot going on at the moment. And
Mhm.
I a lot of business people that I speak to, I think particularly business women, but business owners that I speak to, there's two problems that they're encountering at the moment, and when it comes to promoting themselves and their businesses, online and offline in traditional media as well. One, they're afraid of talking and sharing what they're doing in case it's not perfect and for fear of being cancelled. And the other thing is they feel pressure online to join in protest movements online, to
Mm.
share their opinions, but they don't necessarily want to do that because they're afraid it might have a negative impact on the business. But then that in itself feels wrong, and there's a whole piece of guilt around it. So that's why I invited Samantha onto the podcast today, so that we can tease these issues out. Now, Samantha, in episode 1 of the podcast, I gave my speak on why it's important to show up online, about giving that visibility and credibility to your brand, about being a leader and showing people how to do it. But what are the concerns that you find people have in our market in showing up and really promoting what it is that they're doing? What are the challenges people are facing?
Well, I think the number one thing that I'm coming across, and the most common thing that people come to me with, is there's a huge fear of putting themselves out there, a huge fear of backlash, and they're worried about trolls and worried about people. And I'm like, and this person might only have 10 followers. And I'm like, do you know what? I don't think you have anything to worry about because usually when you think about it, the like trolls, right, and negativity on social media, look at who they're talking to and look at what they're reacting to. Um, Usually it depends on what you post. Okay. So what are you posting? Are you bitching about others? Are you complaining? Are you getting involved in controversy? Are you getting involved in politics? And people come to me and they might say, I'm not getting like the traction I'd like. Can you have a look at my account? And I look at the account and every single post is a moan about something. And I'm
Mhm.
sorry, in this climate, we need to surround ourselves with positive people, good people who are walking the walk, the winners. I call them, surround yourself with the winners, stick with the winners. And I'll tell you why. I don't mean the people who've won awards. I don't mean the people who've loads of money. I don't mean that. I mean the good, kind people who do the right thing, um, walk the walk, help others along the way, and are not just talking about themselves all the time. And another thing I've looked at it when people come to me is it's like, oh, I did this and I did that. And it's like, and if you want this, buy this. Like, that's not going to work. Right. We're so savvy now. We're so used to social media. Mostly what people want are experiences. They want to be inspired. They want to be educated. We definitely want to be educated. We want, especially small business owners, we want to learn
Mm.
from our peers. We want to learn from people who we admire. And there are people that we might aspire to. Like, for example, I remember once seeing someone that I admired online, and I said, oh my God, that woman is just amazing. I think, and now she's my client, and this is years later. But I'm just saying, hang on a second now. I'm doing something right here. And what I'm doing, and this is what I tell people. I say, look, I didn't know you did that. How come you aren't telling people that you do that service? And she was like, but I do, it's in there. And I'm like, I didn't even see that.
Think we forget that just because we have, and even if it's a client already, it
Mm,
doesn't mean they know everything that you do. So you have to be letting people know that these are the services that you're offering. These are the ways that you can support me. This is how we can work together. I'm looking to collaborate on A, B, C, or D. That piece though about like, and I'm like a broken record. Like I'm great at lots of things, guys, but I'm not psychic. So give me the information.
yeah.
Um, and I say it at least once a day when it comes to working with clients or teaching students. But the other that other part about, people trying to raise their profile and getting in on the negativity game online because it's kind of what everybody else is doing. And you know what? If you have a problem that you're trying to raise awareness around, you're trying to create a protest movement, amazing, wonderful,
Mm,
if it serves a purpose. But
mhm.
and I know you would say this to your clients as well, but like, what's the point of the post? What's the point of people
Yeah.
following you? What are you offering them?
It's like think, think, think. So always think, okay, who is the person you're serving? Who is it that you want to reach? Because if someone comments, some randomer comments and says, oh, blah blah blah, whatever, like, I just go, I just block them because I know they are never going to buy my service. They're never going to collaborate with me. They're never going to work with me. So, and it's not all about that as well. We do have to pay bills. Of course, you need to earn money if you have a business, but I only want to hang out with people who maybe I might want to have a cup of tea with. That's the way I think of
Yeah.
it. Who would I like to have a cup of tea with?
And
And
what then about, say, like, there's a lot of war happening at the moment, and
yeah,
people have very strong opinions on
yes,
the various situations. And there'll be people like me, like I don't comment in the main on situations
mm,
like that. Now that comes because I come to this world of business and communications coaching as a former news anchor. And my training was my job is to facilitate the passage of information. It's not my job to share my opinion publicly. So that's the
yeah,
lens that I come to this stuff with.
yes.
And I have very strong political opinions. I'm politically active, but I don't feel it's what my audience want from me. And it's
Hmm.
my personal opinion. So in the main, I don't get involved because it's not what I don't feel I can contribute any value to the conversation. Okay. I can be horrified, but I don't feel I can have an actual contribution. But there are people who feel really strongly that they feel pressured into talking about these things online and are perhaps threading a very fine line on it. And there's the risk there that you will turn off business people. And if you're running a business and you're trying to serve a target market, you do have to be conscious of that.
Yes, and I know several people who have started. I've actually unfollowed them because that's all they post about is this opinion on, and it's a political thing, and it's just very anger. There's you see, I always say think, think, think before you post, right? Are you angry? Are you tired? Are you hungry? Have you been drinking? Like just think before
Hmm.
you post. Like I am so glad social media wasn't around when I was really out there drinking. Like, but it's like I think before you post, but also, I just do something quietly in the background. The people that are my biggest cheerleaders are very quiet. You don't see them saying anything to me or commenting on my posts. They send me a private message. So if you want to do something privately to help the situation, then do something privately. Maybe contribute some money or whatever it is you want to do privately. You don't have to comment. You don't have to get involved in the conversation. Someone did ask me in public, "What's your opinion?" And I just said, "Well, I have no opinion on that matter at the moment, and so people think I have no opinion on anything. I do, of course, but even I felt very strongly the other night about something, and I was like, oh, don't post, Sam, don't post. I really wanted to post about this because I was so angry as an Irish person in particular, and I'm very proud to be Irish, um, and I didn't. I just said deep breaths. And I said, that is all. That's all I said. I didn't say anything else. So it could have been about anything,
Yeah,
So
yeah. And look, we like that's where perhaps picking up the phone to the friend and having that rant. I sent
absolutely.
a friend a message yesterday. Are you free? I need to rant. Nobody knows what that was about. That's not in the public domain. And I think sometimes we forget when we think we're seeing everything about people's lives online that we need to be talking about everything that we do. But it's
No,
okay to hold things privately. I suppose
absolutely.
the way I manage these things, Sam, is like that. I contribute to different things, behind the scenes quietly when I can afford to do so.
Yeah.
I have a couple of issues that I will talk about online. My dad died from sepsis. He had AL amyloidosis. He died very tragically because he was discharged from hospital and he was dead within less than 24 hours.
Oh, I'm so
Okay.
sorry.
And I share that online. I work with the HSC on that. They have me speak at their conferences. I've done a video for them. I felt that, and myself and my mum would have been involved in doing that. We felt that we could contribute positively by raising awareness around the signs and symptoms of sepsis. So
Yeah.
we decided instead of going the legal route or sitting at home and feeling isolated, to work with the HSC. Okay. And
Yes.
that's what on that particular issue, that was our choice. And it worked, as my mum would say, it worked for our house. People might
Yes.
disagree with us, but it worked for our house and it helped raise awareness. And when I hear, like at the moment on the radio, there are ads going about the signs and symptoms of sepsis, and we contributed to that
Wow.
campaign. We were part of the research into that. And it's amazing the sense of pride that I feel when that,
Yeah.
and I know my father would have wanted that because he believed passionately in the power of education and always regretted not continuing his own education.
Yes.
I
Yes.
talk about living with invisible disability because it's my life. I'm type 1 diabetic. I have lots of health issues. I talk about these things to help others who are struggling, like perhaps I once was. I work with Women for Election because I believe that we need more diversity in politics. And they're my three things that I will share online. There's lots
Same.
more in my
Yeah.
life. There's lots more that goes on behind the scenes, but I
Yeah.
feel it's we can't be all things to all people. So if you have something you're really passionate about and it aligns with your work and your values, I'm not saying don't talk about it, but just be smart in how you're doing it.
That's exactly it. Be smart in how you're doing it. It's like my daughter, she is deaf. She has two hearing aids. She was at a conference recently and they asked for feedback and she said, well, I really couldn't hear the speakers because of my hearing aids and the acoustics, whatever. And that made me think, oh my gosh, my own conferences, I don't have subtitles. So this year I have subtitles, and I've even got an accessibility officer to help with someone who might have difficulties. And I had never even
Mm.
considered that. But then when I was speaking to her, I said, oh no, I do that because of this. I do that because of this. She goes, actually, you're actually very aware. She actually said to me, you actually have thought of a lot of things that people might have problems with. So it's interesting, like even though I didn't think I was being accessible, friendly, or whatever, I actually was thinking that way. And I didn't realize it. So, I mean, you're right. There's my daughter's diabetic type 1 as well. So, she did a campaign there for Medtronic, I think recently, where, a blue balloon
Mhm.
campaign or something. And I did the blue balloon to help her, to support her and to support others with diabetes. And, it's like, and also it's in my family big time. I just don't have, I'm just one of the lucky ones that hasn't got it. Like, so, I mean, that could be me as well in a few years. So it's all about thinking, putting yourself in other people's shoes and saying, well, how can I add value the most here? And on the day during the pandemic, that was the best way that I could add value and help others with the power of my following, let's say.
So, for anybody listening to this and is nervous of sharing what you're doing online, think about the positive impact that you can have on your business, number one, on yourself and your own self confidence, number two, but on the people who are following you. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure, they might not be in a position to buy from you today. They might not be your target market today, but you can provide leadership all the same. And if you are passionate about particular issues and you want it to be part of what you do online, great. Bring it into your brand values. Bring it in
Mhm.
so that it's aligned to you and your business. But as Samantha says, think before you post. You know, if you're passionate about it tonight at 10 o'clock, tomorrow morning at 10 a.m., when you've had a good night's sleep, you should
Yeah.
still be passionate about it. So just hold off just a little bit.
You should see my drafts on Twitter. Oh my gosh, I'm like, okay, I won't. And then I'm looking through them going, oh my God, I'm so glad I didn't post that.
I know someone who does it in the drafts of emails. I feel that's a bit too dangerous, I have to be honest. So for me, it's my friends groups in WhatsApp, and I hold back from the public side of things. But whatever works for you, Samantha, it's all about like being out there in the world, promoting yourself confidently so that people can know what you're doing, but sticking to your own ethics along the way. And like, look, we did a whole episode of the podcast. I think it's worth talking about again in another episode of the podcast. But it's really that is a really important nugget of information. Samantha Kelly, thank you so much for joining us on Cut Through the Noise. I have thoroughly enjoyed our conversation, and
Likewise.
the very best of luck with Social Media Fest 2025. My thanks again to Samantha Kelly, aka the Tweeting Goddess, for joining me on Cut Through the Noise today. I hope you found the conversation really helpful. And like, I wanted to have the chat with Samantha because I know that people are feeling the pressure to share everything online and are nervous about doing it, or perhaps overthinking it and then not actually doing it. And then there are others who are genuinely afraid of, not being seen to support the quote unquote right causes. So I really do believe that, as we discussed with Samantha, it's about choosing your battles at the end of the day. Look, you can't expect people to buy into what it is that you're doing if you're not giving them the evidence that you can do what you say you can. Because anybody can make a claim that they're great at A, B, or C, without actually showing. It's why on the communications coach I have a podcast so that you can see me practicing what I preach. Literally, it's why I have a video, even though I hate being in front of a camera. You can follow the podcast on YouTube so that you have evidence to know that I can do what I say I can. And you have to do that regardless of what kind of business you're in. If If you want people to buy from you, to buy into what you do, you need to give them the evidence. You then need to assess whether or not a particular issue is something that you want to get involved in, is something that you can actively contribute to. And no, it's not about toxic positivity or any of that kind of thing. It's about, can you actually have an impact here? Can you be of help? Can you add value? And is it something you want to do on an ongoing basis? Because we talk about in communications, consistency. Consistency is vital. So really do think before you start joining in so many of these campaigns, because the more you get involved in, the more overwhelming it becomes. So, really simplify things and say, well, do you know what? This is something that I really feel passionately about. It's something that I want to be part of my work. So, yeah, do you know what? This is something I'm going to bring into my work, my brand, my business. We can't solve every problem on the planet, but we can have a positive impact on a few if we really make a consistent effort. Again, the conference is Social Media Fest. It's socialmediafest.ie. It takes place on April 9th, so you've got a little bit of time left to get your ticket there if you'd like to join in, and I hope to see you there. I will be in attendance with Samantha, so please do come up and say hi. It'd be lovely to meet you out in the real world. And as I always say, if you enjoy Cut Through the Noise, please do support the podcast. Hit that subscribe or follow button, depending on the podcast app that you're using. And if you'd like to drop me a line to hello@thecommunicationscoach.ie, you can find out more about the work that I do, or even if you just need a little bit of advice and you want to have a chat, get in contact with me. All my links are in the show notes below, as are Samantha Kelly's. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Cut Through the Noise. We'll be back again next week. But in the meantime, remember that while content may well be king, clarity is key if you want to stand out from the crowd and cut through the noise.